What we're going to talk about today is how to build those healthy soils. Felicia's going to help me out, and she brought some compost and some manure. And the manure that she did bring is, I guess, rabbit. She has rabbits.
Yeah, it's a cold manure, so you could just directly just put it onto the garden. Manure is good for the soil. It creates different types of nutrients. Out here in Tolani Lake, some of the manures, such as cows and horses and pigs, their manure is hot. It creates heat.
Yeah, cow manure is pretty good. They really chew their food down to like a pulp. And that's what kind of you want. Whereas like I was going to horses, they just chew things, and then when you look at their manure, it's actually, like, you can see like big straw pieces, and it's hardly digested. They just kind of chew it real quick and swallow it. Nice. So to get the manure to compost usable, you need, like, I would say at least four items. The nitrogen, which is the green manure. Grease, bones, yeah, you don't want to put any of that in there, or meat.
I just do the vegetables and the like fruits, and then coffee grinds, and they say eggshells is pretty good too.
The carbon, which is your paper, straw, water, moisture, and then air. 80% green, 20% carbon, and that's again cardboard, straw, paper, or you can go 70, 30, but you want more nitrogen than carbon because it'll break it down faster, and then the carbon will actually prevent that from getting too hot too. So you're kind of mixing both ingredients to get a good compost. The cardboard that you use, I recommend that brown one. You can use the ones from like the store that you buy stuff in. That's still cardboard, but it usually has a plastic coating on top. Very rarely breaks down, and it takes a long time. So this is like a coating too. I try not to put this in my bins. I try to put those ones in. We'll talk about some bins too. So I brought a bin, and you can use anything, but this is just one that's kind of like you can buy at the store. Well, you don't want to fill this all the way up. Maybe I'd say halfway. And then once it's done, it's gonna drop down and become like a handful. And that's not enough for a big old garden. It's enough for house plants, and then if you got any like starts. But this is a smaller type one. And then you get your trash cans or your buckets, any kind of containers. You can use these too. Start something in there. Again, it'll slowly break down, and then it'll probably get like that much out of the whole full bucket. And you can need a couple of buckets, and then you go to your big old like containers like that, 100-gallon water barrels, and you can compost in that too, and that will break down, and again, it'll only be about that much. And you can put it in maybe one bed. Having a worm farm or a worm bin is new to us. Majority of the soils around here are high in alkali, mostly clay. The area around here very dry, hydrophobic, so they don't hold on to a lot of water. When it rains, it just runs off. Having healthy soils and organic matter in these healthy soils will help the plants soak up a lot of the water, the nutrients that the worms and the compost help. We also talked about vermicomposting, which is fertilizing worms, taking care of them, setting up bins for them, and how to use them in your garden beds also.
I personally say that worm casting is the best because you don't have to really rotate the compost because the worms do all the work for you.
But red wigglers are the main type of worms that we work with. They live between 4 to 6 inches on the topsoil. They eat all the organic matter on top. They don't have enough power to, I guess, dig through, penetrate the harder soils underneath, and that's where the earthworms live, the ones that don't eat the organic material. When they reproduce, they can both produce eggs and then produce offspring. So you start out with a handful, and then by next year you'll have quite a bit if you take care of them.
Kind of stay in the ground till it's probably like the nighttime and just like the topsoil, and so they have a danger zone about the like 95, and so they kind of have to stay in the shade and cool area. Yeah. And they only eat enough food that will how much their body weight is, and that's the amount of food they'll eat in a day.
If you have a bin, try not to use a shovel to turn your worm bin. Use something like a pitchfork. Pitchfork works best because it's hard for you to puncture the worm with a pitchfork. So we'll go as far as the line here, I guess. We'll keep everything under. Oh. And you don't need too many holes, they'll figure out. But you can put in more if you want. And then put this in their bed, like maybe 4 to 6 inches. And then put all your scraps from your food scraps in here. Get a couple of worms, throw them in there. And then we'll cover it again with some more bedding. And then they'll start eating the organic material. So this is like their motel. And then they come back to it every time they get hungry. And then slowly you'll start seeing this go down. And then you just keep adding your scrap. And all you do is, it's gonna be outside in your bed, and you just check it. And then if you turn it, put it back there, put a little bit of water in there. And then as long as your bed is moisturized too, and it's not like hard pan, they'll start working through there. But if it's dry, they're not gonna want to go out into that. They're okay in a hoop house because the soil will get to where it's cool. They'll find where it's cool. I haven't had any problems with worms frying up in a hoop house. I think that's good. Now you can just backfill it a little bit. And they'll be moisturized. So it's pretty easy, pretty simple. Yep. Now you just check on it. Yep, feed it. And then once it goes all the way down, you can take out some of the black gold, or you can just leave it, because they'll crawl in and out, and then they'll drop their castings in the soil also. They'll drop some in here, but majority of the time they'll crawl around in here and then lay them in your soil. Yep, the lid, all it does is just prevent moisture from coming out, and then them crawling out also, because they'll tend to want to climb out, and then critters getting in. You can also put holes in it too, if you want. It'd be nice to have a lot of these in your beds with worms, and they'll do the work for you as far as tilling it and then adding any kind of nutrients, and then you get rid of your scraps too that way.